let's get back to Whitey Bulger. So I want to get back into the history of kind of how he became the boss of Boston as a whole.
Go for it.
Of basically, I explained before of how it's very much the Irish in Southie, and then the Italians in the North. And this is where Whitey Bulger and his relationship with John Connolly, the FBI agent, comes in, is basically he uses his connection, the FBI, to kind of get them to focus on the Italians in the North, because he wants to get rid of Jerry Argiulo, the underboss, and kind of have him taken out. So that's kind of like one of the first things. I mean, he becomes an informant in 1978, and then those indictments all happen in 83. Mm-hmm. So after they kind of get taken out of North Boston, now Whitey Bulger is the official boss.
Right.
And Whitey Bulger is bringing drugs in, and he's treating Boston as like his personal playground. Basically, he has no other competition. And back then it was very clear, at least in the 80s, when you're talking about Irish crime, they used to have a saying of like, no one cares unless they have an Italian last name. Of like, everything was very much, we're going against the mafia, This was like,
well, you know what the FBI stands for, right?
Forever bothering Italians.
Word up. Shout out to Grandma.
Yes. So this was like around the same time that they're doing the commission case in New York, and every FBI agent wanted the next big mafia hit, won the next big mafia case. And when you're talking about Whitey Bulger, I mean, it's another thing. No one wanted to go after this Irish guy. And there's also kind of, a lot of law enforcement are Irish.
Yeah, no
and
shit. Not to mention some of them grew up together.
And TJ English in his...
I mean, you should speak, Whitey Bulger's brother is a fucking...
Yes. And Whitey Bulger's brother was a state senator for Massachusetts.
A big-time state.
Was a big-time state senator of Massachusetts.
Big deal.
Yes. And they would appear together in public.
See, that's crazy.
Yes. And at public events where he would be speaking as a state senator and his gangster brother would be next to him. Because you talk about Whitey Bulger of his reputation in South Boston.
Yeah.
He was not seen as this evil person.
No, he's seen like a John Gotti in Ozone Park.
He was seen like very much like how John Gotti was seen in the late...
talk to his victims. They don't have that. They don't have that opinion of him. Like our friend who ends up going missing, and we should probably talk about the documentary a little bit. But the liquor store owner who was extorted.
Yes.
What was his name? Stephen Weeks or something? No, not Kevin Weeks.
No. I forget his name. But there was the documentary. What
was it called?
Whitey, the United States government versus James Bulger.
Yeah, great documentary. And it's also a good documentary
to go along with this book, because this documentary also follows the trial, and you get like kind of subtext and exposition about Whitey's life and rise to power. I mean, the book really gets into it, but I always saw that this book and that documentary are very much companion pieces. What was his name?
Stephen Rakes.
So Stephen Rakes was a liquor store owner who basically Whitey Bulger came to, and he was saying that the Italians took a hit out on him. And was like, the Italians are going to come kill you.
Whitey Bulger and Kevin Weeks show up to Stephen Rakes' house, and they say, we were hired to kill you, and we're either going to kill you or we'll protect you, but you're going to make us partners in your liquor store business, a.k.a. we're going to... Yes. It's like there's a famous Sopranos episode about it. What do they call blowing it out or something? When they take in the Sopranos, when they take the guy's sporting goods store,
I believe busting it out. Basically, they explain it in the Sopranos, and they explain it in Goodfellas too. Of basically, you run up everything on the store's credit card. take out a bunch of insurance policies, and you basically get as much money from a store as possible. And then you leave and your name's not on anything. So you're leaving whoever the original owner is with, the bills and the lawsuits that were going to come after that.
Yeah, we don't know if that was going to be the case or if they just wanted
I don't know if they just wanted extortion money.
Or they might like put in like a dummy owner and take the money. But anyway.
But he was supposed to testify against Whitey Bulger, and then the day before, he went missing and is found dead.
Yes.
And it turned out it had nothing to do with the case. He was poisoned by like a business associate.
Yeah, which is insane. What are we, fucking living in Russia?
You're living in Boston.
Touche.
But it is just very suspicious timing that it's right before he's about to testify.
By the way, this
Whitey
is pretty
Bulger.
good. We've been going for like 40 minutes. I have not made fun of the Red Sox yet.
Fuck the Red Sox.
All right. Wait, we're running a business here, Gregory.
Right.
I'm sure we have a lot of people from Boston watching this episode. We just want to say
we're from Long Island.
No, that's fine. We respect the passion of people who are I got to be honest, the older I get, and obviously I'm always a diehard Yankee fan, always. And of course I want to say what you said, but out of respect to our viewers, I'm not going to say that. But I will say I do appreciate a loyal, strong fan base that cares, rather than like a place that they don't care about about their sports team. Fuck it. Move
fine.
On. I'm being the politician.
I never kind of believed that he was killed in relation to Whitey Bulger.
Stephen Rakes.
Yes, Stephen Rakes. Whitey Bulger had no money at the time. He had any wealth he had from being a mob boss, he was well past that from living on the run. He couldn't pay for his own attorneys. His two defense attorneys were both court appointed for him. And
at the time of Stephen Rakes' extortion?
No. At the time that Stephen Rakes goes missing.
Oh yeah.
At the time of the trial. He can't afford his own lawyer, and the court has to appoint them to it.
Right.
And it's crazy because you're reading it. You're reading the book, and Bulger he sits in the courtroom very quiet, and he's still I mean, you can tell from the book, he still has this aura about him of here is an 80-year-old man who has no money, who has no connections, and people are still kind of uneasy and afraid around him. And you talk about I have mentioned more that sometimes with people, the myth of who they were is more important than who they actually were. So even if that time he was an old man with nothing to his name who couldn't beat someone up if he tried,
right?
The myth of who Whitey Bulger was still very much in that courtroom, and you can tell it in this book. He just has a presence about this presence of evil that kind of just surrounds him.
I mean, look at what we just saw with Joe D'Angelo and the Golden State Killer testimony, or they had a bunch of witnesses.
Yeah.
Well, they had a bunch of ex-victims come in and kind
of
they do this thing where they're before sentencing, the victims are allowed to speak.
Yeah.
And I mean, Joe D'Angelo's an elderly guy who's just he's an old man sitting there, but that fucking evil is just palpable.
Yeah.